we encourage them to turn and talk and have conversations with each other? Yes. Can we do that with a social justice book? Yes. Do we do book clubs? Yeah. Can we choose the themes of our book clubs and guide them in directions? Yes. So it's not anything new. It's not anything added. It's just simply being intentional with the way that you use it, and then allowing them to use the toolbox on their own.
What are your plans moving forward? What are your thoughts for this class for the remainder of this year, as well as even things that you might change differently for next year?
I think I've learned that this has to be something that's continual. It is not we drop it in one time, 1 month, and then we move on. No, this has been successful this year because it started in August and it snowballed down a road, and we followed what the kids needed and where their thoughts went. And so I think I'll start with the for next year thing. What I want to do next year is to set them up the same way, to set them up with that community, to set them up with the safe space, but then, again, to listen to where they are, to listen to where their needs are, because I know that this year, we started with race, the big idea of race this year, because that's where they were, and that might not be, where my kids are next year, or where my kids were last year, and so, moving forward to know for next year, to just listen again, to see where they are, to give them those ideas, and to push them in directions that challenge them, but to also figure out where they are first. For this year's kids, I think that it's really easy at this time of year to just throw your hands up and say, it's the end of the year, it's almost summer, but I think that this has to be wrapped up. There has to be a conclusion to this. There has to be, we have done all this work for a full year. So what? So what does that mean once you leave the CAMFAM and move to another classroom? Does that mean that all this goes out the window? How do you take these ideas and continue to live your life? And so I think we're going to take it from some of these concrete or these more concrete, analyzing a book, talking about the thing, even this Sylvia Mendez, sharing the story, and pull it way back and say, okay, big picture. So what? So how does this impact you for where you're going to go? And I think at that point I also have to be mindful to empower them that, yes, you've done these things with me, but that doesn't mean that you have to have me to do these things. You can still promote acceptance and kindness without me guiding you. And that's my hope for these kind of things, is that I've given them the foundation, I've given them the meaningful opportunities, I've allowed them to talk in the safe space, and now they get to fly on their own, and they get to go out on their own. And will they all do it? No. But the hope is that they're equipped to do it, and they're equipped to think about the world and see the world in a different way than they were in August.
I know our time is dwindling, but do you have any advice for other educators who might want to do this kind of work but maybe feel a little reluctant?
I think it goes back to what you believe as a teacher, where your philosophy as a teacher stands. And when you step back and you look at your day and your profession and your curriculum and the things that you teach, are you okay with, is what you're teaching matching to what you believe as a teacher? And if it's not, then that's an issue of your heart too. And I think at that point you address why. Is it because I don't have the support of my principal? Is it because my team is doing something different? And when you figure out what that is, I think there's easy ways to combat those things. I think that you have to trust the kids, and you have to understand that they can do so much more than we give them credit for. Who would think that 9-year-olds are going to starting an inclusivity movement in an elementary school? That's something that a lot of people are like, oh, 9-year-olds, they don't even know how to read. That's not the case. And so when you have to trust them, to give them that opportunity, and you also have to be okay with the fact that it might not work the first time. We read Separate is Never Equal. That worked great. We read Brave Girl. They did not connect to that whatsoever. And at that point, I could have given up. But at the end of the day, what I believe as a teacher is to instill with them these big ideas. And so if that's what I believe, I'm going to find the way to do it. If it's because your principal doesn't support, or your team does something different, or you're held to different standards, there's still ways to incorporate those things into your room and to do them in small ways. It doesn't have to be a cannonball explosion, and I'm lucky to be in a school where my principal says, go, you can run with it and do what you want. And I'm on a team of people that support the fact that I might do something different. But if those aren't the case, there's still ways to tie in those things. There's still ways to tie in the threads, even through conversation, through using the kids in your room. And I think it comes back to you trust your kids and you believe in them and what they can do, not hold them to what they can't do or what you can't do. The positive perspective instead of that negative focus.
Do we have time for one last question?
Yeah.
Thank you. The last thing I want to ask you in terms of advice relates to parents. I think that sometimes educators are reluctant because they're fearful of how parents may perceive this, particularly if it's a controversial topic, like you bring up race. I think some teachers are simply afraid to go there. So what do you do to connect with and communicate with parents, and do you have any tips for other teachers?
I mentioned this before, but I think it's so important that parents understand this as well, that you're not trying to change their belief system in terms of what they might believe at home. You're not trying to, cause them to vote for someone or to think of people in this light. And I think it comes so much with you build in the beginning that respect. And when the parents know that you respect them and what their families stand for, and when you're approaching it in a way that doesn't come across as, I'm trying to change people. I think the wording is so important there. I also think that when the kids talk and when you get the kids excited and when the kids are wholeheartedly in it, parents are way more, they buy in quicker. So, when I shared this with my parents, yes, I wrote the letter to go, but the kids made the video, and they had their own statements, and they explained it in their own words. And when I think the parents see that, instead of seeing it as, the teacher has come up with this project on this super controversial issue, when in reality, it's the kids have come up with this, and it's meaningful to them, I think that changes thinking. I think it's important to introduce it in a very gentle way. You're not a bull in a china shop. You're not trying to knock people over or make people feel offended. And I think that you have to tell at the right time. I think if you build it up too much with the parents, then everyone just gets frazzled. I think there's such a fine line of...
Or not addressing it at all.
Right.
Could be problematic.
Exactly.
So.
You definitely have to address it, but you have to address it at the right time.
Did you get any feedback from parents after sending that home? Or I'm just curious.
Actually, some of them went home with their book club books, and their parents have been reading their book club books alongside. Somebody took a long walk to water last night and was reading the whole thing and was sending me messages. This is just making my heart smile, and I think, this has changed the way my kid views people at church, and I've seen them be more inclusive to other people. And this matches what we do with our family. Thank you for, encouraging this at home. Thank you for growing them as a person. And I think when parents see that it ties into their standards too, like we are doing fourth grade things. We are doing reading and writing. This isn't in place of something else. Then the defenses go down too, because we are in a test-driven world. Parents care about that, and rightfully so, because that's driving so much. But when parents see that this is producing outcomes too, and it's producing academic, but also the whole child, they're way more willing to buy into it than if you just approach it as, one or the other kind of thing.
I think it's wonderful. I think you're doing great work to empower your students, not just as readers and writers, but as learners and as human beings.
Yes.
And I love the connections into their homes and into their lives beyond the four walls of your classroom. So thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Cameron.